Dear producers, I got it. You admire Nair Automata. Okay, you made a nice main character, she has charm, she's a character who managed to be on the agenda with her clothes, and for this reason it was talked about before it came out, and it may be talked about more after it comes out. But there's something like this in Nair Automata. There's a reason why this character looks like this. There's a logic in itself. As a matter of fact, Nair Automata is a special game that questions the future of mankind in general, the disappearance of the worlds, the mission of androids, with a very solid story. As a stellarblade, you're also admirer of this. Okay, you wanted to do something in the principle of Nair Automata. As we can see, you have made a character it's too eye-catching. The future of humanity is here. There are androids, disaster scenarios, and so on. But the bottom is empathy. It's like you made it just to do it. Stellarblade, as you can see, is an action game. At first glance, you may think it's a game like Nair, but it's not. There is a structure that goes and comes somewhere between a Souls-like and hack-and-slash style. There's actually no action system that you can relate to in this game. Therefore, it cannot remain independent. For example, attackers are strong, so you can die with 2 or 3 wrong mistakes. They attack you with heavy-handed attacks like in a Souls game, but there is also a combo system in the game. You do a lot of combos, you have special skills and use them to mess up the enemies. So it also gives such a hack-and-slash atmosphere. On top of that, you kill enemies like Sekiro, and it's actually a very critical game to kill. You don't want to rush into crowded enemies, you try to retreat like Souls. But you can also do combos after combos like Devil May Cry. It took some of the elements from every game we know and created such a game. It looks very nice aesthetically. I'm not talking about girl, I'm talking about action. Running, hitting, doing combos, applying special powers are great. It is also a satisfying game visually. Again, I'm not talking about girl. The graphics are good in terms of visuals. That's what I say. That's why the action scenes looks flashy, but unfortunately it has a bit of a cumbersome structure. The character's reaction time should be a bit late compared to the fair action games, which can make you feel like you are not in control in some action scenes. First of all, you need to get used to this in the game. When the enemies are especially crowded, it can be difficult to deal with them. In fact, in the first hours, it made me sweat so much that I say, am I playing this game wrong? Because I didn't have any power to deal with the crowded enemies. My attacks weren't damaging the enemies, it's only damaging one person. Like the Souls game, you can't play like run, flip-flop, run. And the enemies were aggressive. When they see you once, they come running after you. You can't kill the attacks one by one. You kill someone else attacks on you and you can't even dodge back-to-back attacks. When that happens, I said a little bit in early hours, what am I going to do with these crowded enemies? But as the skills open up later, the work began to settle in the raid. The action of the game becomes more meaningful as you increase the special abilities that allow you to achieve the crowd. That's why we can say that action level increases from the first hours to the last hours. In the first hours it's not bad, but it gets better towards the end, especially after you pass the middle. There's a different structure of Souls. When you die, you start from the save point. That's where the Souls logic comes from. When you die, you return to the last save point and the enemies spawn again. Of course, when you say this, don't think of it as a very difficult thing. There are quite a few save points and it's not hard to run away from enemies when you die. In general, I don't put this game in a very difficult place, to be honest. It has a slightly easier experience in terms of fighting games. I didn't come across a boss that really forced you in boss battles in the game. Moreover, I didn't improve my character too much. Besides, it's not a matter of improving the character. You don't say, let me level up my character in the Souls game and go to level 3, because there is no such stat development screen. The experience points you gain don't affect your stats. Don't think of it as a role-playing game. There are a few stats that you can improve your character. One of these is a shooting power of your weapon, and in order to improve it, you usually have to progress in this story. When you cut the bosses in this story, there is something you gain. It improves your weapon, and there are no different weapons. You play the game with a single weapon. Where the game differs is actually based on making combos. In other words, it's not a matter of building such character. The most changeable things are the spine skeleton system. Their choices affect your style of play. It's like playing more defensive, more aggressive, or like playing with special powers. Other than that, the rest of the improvements are the standard improvements you will expect. By the way, I don't see this structure as a drawback, I'm just telling you to know the style of the game. Otherwise, I think the game offers a very sufficient and satisfying combat, a depth. I didn't have a demand that I wish I had more talent and more weapon variety during the time I played. It offered enough weapon variety. We earn experience points in the game. So what do we do with our experience points? You open the skills. Improve your special skills, you can get combos, different finishing hits. It doesn't put you at such a completely different powerful level with the skills you open. That's why I say it's not very possible to make the character so powerful by improving it. It will give you enough power in the game. I did some mission to make the character a little more increases, but this game has one of the most boring side mission designs I've ever seen. The parts where I got bored most in the game were parts where you were chasing these side missions. There is a central city in the game. Think of this place as a hub. There is no action, the speaking parts are here. You see those who want to give you a job while traveling in the city. There is such a mini open world here. I was traveling in the city, someone told me I would give you a job there. So I went to her. She said, I saw a black cat. There should be not cat in this book. Can you find it? I said, yes, let me find it. The game indicated a place on the map, go there. The cat is here. I went. The cat is unfortunately dead. Then I returned to her. I said, I found the cat, but it's dead. And she said, okay, the mission is over. I said hello on the map. You told me to go there. I went and the mission is over. What kind of side mission is this? What did you do to me here? I don't understand. Did you warm me up in the game? Did you give me a great side story? Did you put me in the weird boss fight or an action game? I don't understand what happened. You coincide with the more fluent missions, but when 50% of the missions I took were like this, I said I won't be able to deal with the side missions. Because there is not much as a story. I didn't want to go so hard to see 3 or 5 beautiful scenes, so that's why I went over the main story. In general, the story side, voiceover, and the world they created are a bit dull. I'm not a player who necessarily pursues such a story, who says that it must have a very good story, otherwise I will never be able to play it. It shouldn't be this mediocre. You try to create something different, fill it up a bit. No surprise design in the story, no interesting characters. With everything, the game looks like a very bad and boring imitation of Nier Automata. I'm saying it based on the story, not the gameplay, and I was a little too upset about this situation. I can't find a side that will kill a story. There are some small epic scenes, but everything else is very spiritual. Even the name of the main characters in the game is Adam and Eve. There is no such an interesting thing as Adam and Eve. They are so far away from creativity. If I see another game with Adam and Eve, I feel fly with my head. Why are you going to play this game? You're going to play for action. The answer is simple. There is no doubt. The developers have done a good job on the side of action. Combos, dodging, combining special effects, and gradually developing them are a nice experience. On the other hand, the good thing is that it doesn't make you travel in very open areas. When you say that there is a structure similar to Souls, don't think that. There are very open areas. It gives an explanation and says you can discover this place if you want, and I discover it. But after that, it never gives you an explanation. You go on your own to do the mission if you want. In the main missions, it flows in a linear way, which I think is a correct decision, because the structure of the game doesn't support it that much. If you're going to make an open space, you need to put a lot of things that can be discovered. But your character already has a single build. I mean, you make an exciting character better. In a game with such fixed characters, I didn't want to run around for 300 hours. That's why I liked the linear essay of the main story. There's a lot of boss that we encounter in the main story. By the way, it is a game that provides variety in terms of boss battles. It didn't engage in very memorable boss battles, but they have their own uniqueness. For example, here comes a woman. Who made you like this? You're obviously an android. which horny mind scientist said I should wear this outfit. Bro, I'm trying to learn how to play with my honor. When you fight with the sister, you usually have to make a fairy defend. A special boss battle was designed for her. When you fight with another boss, you have to run away according to the bigger attacks. As I said, when I finished the game, there was no sense that made me say, I'll never forget this war. But it was fun to play enough. It would be unfair to wait for great boss battles in every sense. By the way, the only thing I can count as a gem of the action side of this game is that it gives more stage for gun uses. In fact, they added sequences that we only go with weapons in a few episodes. Most likely they should have been afraid that the players wouldn't use weapons, so they put such episodes to remind them. It slightly turns the game into dead space. You are in a place like a closed station and just using weapons. There are creatures and it reminded me of Dead Space. Personally, I don't like the fact that my skills in the game are taken by hand, but I won't talk much because it's short here. I fight with everything. Why do you only control me with my weapon? But I understand why they put it. In close combat, you can combine weapons from time to time. You run away from an enemy in the last turn. When you run away, the weak point of the enemy comes out. When you hit the weak points with a weapon, you give extra damage. So there is such a small complex structure. I also liked it because it opened up the different advantages of using weapons. In the main story, except for the action, we encounter crossroads. There are sensitive places where you have to jumping and make such a platform. Sometimes you coincide with cinematic moments or something. So it's not a game like Souls all of a sudden, but it can give you the feeling that you have playing an Uncharted or an action adventure. You can understand all of this, by the way. They wanted to make it a mix. They said, let's take a little piece of it all and do something original. Interestingly, it is a game that has gained its own originality. If they had found a better story for this game and characters that they thought more about, if they had been able to present a more original story, it could have turned into something else. Because on the other hand, it really lowers the quality of the game. But I believe that this structure will sell to a certain extent. I think it will be talked about. It seems to me that it's quite different from the clothes of the character. So they will want to do the second game at some point. If they do these things there, the game can be talked about at much different level. But right now, I'm in a completely understandable void with Stellarblade. Action is a must game, a structure that you can play for 15 to 20 hours, which can be said to be 7 out of 10 for me. If you take all of the side tasks, you can extend the time, by the way, but I think the ideal is 20 hours, because as I said, the tasks you will do to extend the game can make it more interesting for player, so I left it for me. The city where the game passes was one of the most annoying center points I've ever seen in the recent times. Also, they made the city big, go there and go there. It's annoying. Meaningless dialogues, only I liked hairdresser, you can change your hair with it. I cut it a little bit. That's why I say if you're looking for a 20-hour action, cut it off and come. The best thing is that it's not an imitation of something. It has its own side. It has an interesting hack and slash and Souls-like game. When the price went down a little bit, when the discount came in, I think it was a job for action lovers to look at. If you think that the company is the first game of this scale, I think I can say that they made a very good job. Actually, I found what I was waiting for, and I wasn't waiting for something very great. I didn't want it to be a bad thing. It was just like something in between. In summary, the most exciting part of the game is to offer a combat in the highest quality possible. Apart from that, the graphics are good, the music is great, the platform parts of the game can be a bit annoying from time to time. Some of the side quests are really boring. The main story and the characters didn't attract me at all. I can count them as an extra. But in summary, I think the Korean producers did a good job for their first productions. I will wait for their next games.